Hi, greetings, fellow hunters. More look at Supernatural Season 1 now continues on with the episode Something Wicked. The scene opens at Fitchburg, Wisconsin, where a young girl named Bethany is saying her prayers before bed. Her father explains that her mother's spending the night at the hospital with her sister, and then says goodnight and leaves the room. Bethany is kept awake by the tree branches banging against her window. Creeped out by this, Bethany gets out of bed and closes the blinds and returns to bed. We soon see a thin, long-fingered hand open her bedroom window. A shadowy figure creeps in as Bethany rolls over to see what the noise is. The creature's mouth glows white and it hisses at her as she lets out a scream. The scene shifts to a highway where the Impala is driving along. Sam and Dean are following coordinates sent to them by John leading to Fitchburg. Although Sam is finding nothing when he searches the net, and the boys bicker about it being a bust. They soon arrive in town and stop to get coffee. That's when Sam notices something. Sam has seemed to look at the playground, and they notice only one kid playing during the late afternoon. They talk to the mother child, who mentions that there has been a recent outbreak of an illness affecting the children in the area. Sam and Dean head to the hospital to investigate. As they walk in, Sam confronts Dean about the ID Dean gave him, which reads Bikini Inspector. Dean comments that they want him to check the ID, so Sam approaches the desk and introduces himself as CDC to the nurse. To his dismay, the nurse asks for ID. With Dean Silent laughing in the back, Sam shows the ID, which isn't scrutinized, and the nurse directs him to where the sick children are. As they walk towards the ward, Dean notices an old lady in one of the rooms with an upside-down cross on the wall. They assume Mr. Heidegger, the doctor on the case, who is surprised to see the CDC there. He tells the boys that the disease works itself through siblings in a family. Dean asks to speak to the kids, but Heidegger tells them it is impossible since they are all unconscious. They talk to Bethany's father, who reveals that it was his daughter Mary who got the illness first, then Bethany. Needing further information, they decide to investigate Bethany's currently empty house. Once in the house, they begin to look around Bethany's room for clues as to what happened. Sam looks around the window and finds something on the windowsill. He calls Dean over to show him the black semi-human handprint. Dean recognizes it as something he saw as a kid, which triggers a flashback. A young Dean looks over a picture of the same handprint that is a part of John's current hunt. John has his bag packed and is about to leave for a hunting trip when he begins to run down the rules again with Dean. Dean recites them perfectly and tells John he knows all this. John also tells Dean to watch out for Sammy and leaves. As soon as John leaves the motel room, Dean locks the door. Dean looks at Sam, who is still watching TV. The flashback ends, and Dean tells Sam that John has faced this creature before, but does not elaborate. Dean concludes that John wants him to finish the job. As they unpack the Impala in the motel's parking lot, Dean explains to Sam that they're hunting a type of witch called Striga, or Striga, however it's pronounced. He tells them that their dad faced one 17 years ago in Fort Douglas, Wisconsin, but it got away. This surprises Sam, since not much escapes from John Winchester. They go to check in the hotel where they are greeted by a smart-mouthed young boy, Michael. Michael's mother comes out before the kid can do any more damage, and finishing up whilst Michael helps his brother Asher with dinner. Dean watches as Michael joins his younger brother, which reminds Dean of his past. Another flashback is triggered. While John out on a hunting trip, it's just Sam and Dean. Dean is getting meal ready for Sam. He pours Sam a glass of milk and gives him SpaghettiOs. Sam moans about the food and asks Dean if there are any Lucky Charms. Dean lies saying that there aren't any, but Sam catches this, knowing there are some left. Dean tells Sam that there are some left, but only one bowling and he hasn't had any yet. Dean gives in and allows Sam to have the last bit he was saving for himself. Sam reaches the box and pulls out the toy and offers it to Dean. Thus ending the flashback, and Dean takes the key for the room. In the motel room, Sam's researching the Striga and confirms that Dean was right. Sam finds that they feed on spiritus vitae, or life's breath, and there is no known way to kill one. Dean corrects Sam and tells him there is a way to kill one. He tells him that their dad told him that they are vulnerable when they feed and can be killed kill them with consecrated iron bullets. Sam questions how they're going to locate the thing. Dean tells Sam that a Striga, when not feeding, can take on human form. Dean figures out that all the victims' houses are around the hospital, which is in the dead center. Dean remembers the old woman from the hospital with the inverted cross, and believes her to be the Striga. Sam and Dean return to the hospital and head toward the old woman's room. They silently pull out their guns, and Dean moves closer to her. She's lying completely still with her eyes open. She then moves and quickly accuses them of stealing her stuff. Realizing she isn't the Striga, they put away their guns and claim to be hospital maintenance. Believing them, she tells them to fix the cross and turn it the right way, so she would asking someone to fix it for a while now. Meanwhile, at the motel, Michael and Asher are sleeping when the same hand from before appears and opens the window. The next morning, Sam and Dean head back to the motel, with Sam still laughing at Dean for almost shooting the old lady. They notice Michael outside looking unhappy. Dean approaches him and asks what's wrong, and Michael tells him that his younger brother got sick. Michael's mother appears and is in a hurry to get to the hospital. In order to see her flustered state, Dean offers to drive her to the hospital, which she accepts. Before leaving, Dean looks at Sam and says they're going to kill this thing. While Dean is at the hospital, Sam heads to the library to research the witch. At the library, Sam calls Dean to the hospital and tells him that he found reports dating back to the 1890s of similar cases of children becoming ill and dying over the course of a few months, with a new town being hit every 15 to 20 years. In one of the articles, Sam finds a picture of Dr. Heidegger from the year 1893 and figures out that the doctor is the witch. Dean, who was at the hospital, looks at the doctor who was in the same room. Heidegger moves to talk to Dean, who is barely able to contain his anger, but doesn't attempt to attack the doctor. Back at the motel, Dean is still angry, and Sam is surprised that Dean didn't shoot the doctor right there. Dean says he really wanted to, but he knows it would have been useless, as you can't kill Striga unless it's feeding. He tells Sam he knows how to kill it and proposes a plan to use Michael as bait to draw out Heidegger. Sam doesn't like the plan, and Dean tells Sam there isn't any other way. Dean continues on by saying that he screwed up once before. Sam is confused by this comment, so Dean begins to tell Sam what happened the first time, which triggers a flashback. It's been 3 days since John left, and Sam and Dean are still in the motel room. Dean at the time was getting bored of being cooped up for so long, so he decides to go out for a bit. Before leaving, he checks on a sleeping Sam, before exiting the room and heading to the arcade. Later, the owner is closing up, so Dean heads back to the motel room. When he enters, he notices the light from Sam's room and slowly walks towards it. He looks in to see Sam sleeping with the Striga above him, and he reaches for the shotgun. As he points the gun, John bursts in and fires at the Striga. Obviously hurt, it flees, and John rushes to check on Sam. Seeing Sam okay, John yells at Dean for not following his orders. Back to the present, Dean finishes up his tale by saying after that day, John looked at him differently. The reason that her dad sent him there was so Dean could finish the job. They talk to Michael about their plan, but he flat out refuses to do it. Michael does admit he saw the Striga coming for his brother, but thought it was a nightmare. After they head back to the room to figure out an alternate plan, there's a knock on the door and it's Michael asking if killing the thing will make his brother get better. Dean honestly tells Michael he doesn't know. Michael asks Dean if he would do anything for his little brother. Dean looks at Sam and answers yes, he would. Michael tells Dean he would too. That night, Sam and Dean place cameras around Michael's bedroom and tell him to hide under the bed when they start shooting. Michael voices his worries about getting shot, but Dean assures him that he won't miss. It's now 3 a.m. and Sam and Dean are waiting in another room for the witch to show up. Sam attempts to apologize to Dean for always giving him hell for following Dad's orders, which causes Dean to groan in annoyance. Then the creature comes and approaches Michael. As it's about to feed, Sam and Dean burst in and open fire. When it appears to be dead, the boys let their guards down, and the creature attacks again. It throws Dean across the room, and grabs him and chokes him as it begins to feed. Dean manages to gather in time and kills the Striga, for good this time. He looks at Sam and asks if he is okay. Thumbs up from Sam is his response. Dean shoots the creature a couple more times for good measure. Unharmed but shaken, Michael climbs out from under the bed. The next morning, Sam and Dean are packing up, when Michael's mother appears saying that Asher has made an excellent recovery, along with the other children. Plus, Dr. Heidegger has disappeared. As Michael and his mother drive off to the hospital, Sam tells Dean that it's sad that Michael will always know what's out there, and that sometimes he wishes he was innocent too. Dean admits that he also wishes Sam were innocent, and they drive off. So now let's take a look at some trivia surrounding this episode. The WB's official press release misspells director Winnie Rancic as Dr. Winnie Rancic without the K. Similar to the previous episode, Jeffrey Dean Morgan is mistakenly not credited as a guest star. An alternative title for this episode is Something Wicked This Way Comes. It was shortened later to Something Wicked. The first title of the episode alludes to a line of Shakespeare's Macbeth. The following is, By the pricking of my thumbs, something wicked this way comes. The line is said by a witch in the play. Sturgia is Albanian for witch. The original line refers to Macbeth and his craze for power and willingness to sacrifice anything to complete his goals. This may be a reference to the dark side Dean has shown, especially his willingness to use a child to kill the Striga. One of the chapter listings for this episode is This Way Comes. There is a reference to The Simpsons, when Sam refers to places recently struck by the Striga. He references Brockway, Ogdenville, and North Haverbrook, which in episode 12 of season 4, Marge versus the Monorail, are struck by similar catastrophic monorail. We learn through a flashback the reason why Dean is the way he is about following John's orders. The Striga almost kills Sam when Dean had disobeyed John's orders and gone out, only to come back and find the thing hovering over Sam. In the first flashback, Sam was watching Thundercats. Erica Carroll plays the young mother talks to Dean about the children while at the playground. She also played the hospital receptionist in season 1's Faith, and Hannah/Caroline Johnson from season 9 to 10. So overall, I say this is a pretty good episode, and I really do like the flashbacks that show more of Sam and Dean's childhood. So, yeah. So overall, I give Something Wicked 4 Angel Blades out of 5. When I tune in tomorrow as we take a look at Provenance. So, until then, carry on, my wayward sons and daughters.